Joining me right now is former Texas Congressman and Republican presidential candidate, Dr. Ron Paul. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Maria.
I think when that interview first hit last week after I sat down with the president, some people were surprised at how adamant the president was about doing health care first. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think they're in a quandary. If there were something easy to do, they would have done it. But reforming and redoing medical care is a horrendous job, as is taxes. You know, we've been involved in incrementally increasing the government interference in medical care for over 50 years. 44% of the people don't pay taxes, so they love it. They want something for free, and they think they can get it for free. So it's not going to be easy. The problem is government's involved in medical care delivering a service, and they're totally inept. And so I don't see any easy way out. Maybe they'll come up with some little thing that would help. Anything going opposite of what Obama was doing would be helpful. But the tax system is the same thing. That's been going on longer, thousands and thousands of pages, and they're going to, you know, do the whole thing in a package, and they always have to have offsets. If you cut taxes, you have to raise taxes,
right,
which is insane. So I think that people can't expect too much. If they really were serious, I think what should have been done is immediately, they had all the votes, the House and the Senate and the President, just go and do something like corporate taxes should be lower. Lower corporate taxes from 35 to 20.
Yeah.
But then they say, oh, there's no offset. And that means they believe that everything we earn belongs to the government, and therefore they can't give us anything back without charging somebody else for it.
But you heard what the president said in my interview there. He said, look, we want to get health care done first because we're going to save $900 billion. We want to go into the tax reform package with $1 trillion savings after we overturn the taxes of Obamacare so that could help pay for the tax reform package. But if we don't get it, we'll just cut taxes. So I think that is the thinking. And by the way, they could probably put in a so-called border tax, import tax, reciprocal tax, whatever you want to call it, in a trade deal. It doesn't have to be in a tax reform package, right? So that there are options in terms of how to raise revenue in one end of government, but also lower taxes, right?
Of course, there are other options, and a border tax is one option, but I think it's a terrible option. You know, why should we start interfering with trade? We're supposed to reduce these things, and we're supposed to move toward a freer market and get rid of the international management. I agree with that. Get rid of the WTO's interference and NAFTA and IMF and all these rules. And one thing I like is that the House of Representatives are actually talking to, you know, the British in order to devise something a little bit better, because, you know, these international organizations have no authority to deal with international trade, nor does the president. The president isn't the trade dealer, it's the Congress. And that's why I like to see our Congress being involved, and I think bilateral is the way to go. But all of a sudden, you know, it's not going to be quite like that. They're going to look for raising some revenues so that we can offset something else. Yeah. Really, the big problem is government spending, and nobody wants to talk about that. As long as you have the government spending, and the consensus is that we have to continue to spend welfare, warfare. Believe me, the problem is going to be, where are we going to get the revenues? We run up the debt and we print the money. And I do not see any change in that philosophy. That is going to continue. There's no hint whatsoever that system is going to be challenged.
Well, no, because they don't want to take away Social Security and Medicare. They don't want to undo promises that were already made to people. And we know that that's where much of the money is. Let me ask you this, Dr. Paul, because the border wall is obviously another major issue right now. Today, Attorney General Jeff Sessions and the Department of Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly expected to visit El Paso, Texas, to tour the U.S.-Mexico border. Yesterday, Jeff Sessions spoke about the importance of securing that area by building a wall. I want to get your reaction. Listen to what Jeff Sessions said last night.
I think the border wall needs to move rapidly. It will be the final affirmation that the illegality is over. The numbers have dropped significantly, but if we don't follow through and back up what he promised, then I think we could see these numbers rise again. We do not want that to happen.
So this is coming just as a new poll showed 61% of Texas citizens do not approve. They disapprove of building a large wall to keep illegal immigrants out. Does this surprise you? What's your take on this?
No, I think it's pretty neat. And he says the immigration problem has significantly dropped. So we're moving in that direction. A healthier economy would help us a whole lot, too. We wouldn't worry about this of jobs being taken. We'd be looking for people. But I think it's pretty neat. And I'm glad that the poll shows that people in Texas don't think much of this wall. This would be sort of like going up on the Canadian border and saying, hey, well, you know, we need a big wall up against Canada because people might come in. This whole thing, that walling people off, is not a very libertarian idea. Matter of fact, I've always argued that the walls are going to hinder the American people as much as anybody. If somebody has honestly earned money and they want to walk across the border, they become criminals. You know, they can't do it because they have all these regulations. So I would say that the old tradition of Texas is that people protected their property. People walk across the border illegally, and they have to walk across these ranches. But the ranchers don't have the authority to say no trespassing. So where does this trespassing go? It goes because, of course, Obama made it worse because they can march up the highways and they can get benefits and all this. I think the subsidies is a real incentive to bring people over, but I think a wall is totally useless. And he didn't mention how he was going to pay for that wall. You know, Sessions didn't say a word. That's billions of dollars. Nobody knows what it will cost, and it won't work. It's so detrimental to the concept of liberty because what it is, they're treating a symptom rather than saying our problem is a healthy economy and allowing people to trade freely and go back and forth and enforce the laws that we have. So I would say a wall is treating the symptom, and it's not going to work. I learned that in medicine, believe me, and you miss the boat if you just treat the symptom.
So you don't think it's going to work. So what's the answer then to illegals coming in and sucking up all of the, you know, the free stuff from government as well as taking jobs from Americans? And, you know, then there's also a crime story here.
Say nobody can sign up for any service that's not a citizen. But today, you're not even allowed to ask. In spite of the fact of what the Texans are saying, the border towns are terrible because people just march across daily and go to school there and they go to the hospital. No, just deny it. And then also, you know, if we did something about the economy instead of, you know, just pumping up Wall Street and the stock market and really had a healthy economy, we need workers. And I think the fact that immigration numbers have gone down is a good sign that you don't have to have a wall.
Congressman, good to see you, sir. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Congressman Ron Paul is joining us there.